Good morning, and welcome to Talking with Joe, where we explore people, ideas, strategies shaping the future of businesses. And I'm your host, Joe. Today we're talking about the evolution of leadership facility services. And over the past decade, the industry has transformed from operational oversight to strategic leadership. We'll cover what's changed, what challenges leaders face today, and what's working right now. Joining me is Richard Siri, and who has been a forefront of facility service leadership. Rich, why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, obviously, my name's Rich Siri. Probably goes without saying. Our company is Engineered Electric Motor Repair, and we actually we don't just do electric motors. We started off doing industrial electric motors, but we've moved into obviously anything that attaches to a motor. So pumps, blowers, lots of stuff that falls into that facilities realm. Air handlers, HVAC system, kind of. Not the control side of it as much, but mostly just the motor and rotating apparatus is what we call it. And background-wise, my background was electrical engineering, controls engineering specifically. So lots of programming, lots of controls. And then this was my dad's business, and I'm the fourth owner, of which all of the other owners were family friends, and so it's just kind of been handed down from family to family. And yeah, I took it over from my dad 5 years ago during COVID, and then he retired.
Good, good. Well, thanks for that. All right, so let's see here. Let's start with some perspective. If you were to look back 5 to 10 years, how was leadership in facility service different from what it is today?
I think probably the main change we've seen is in facilities, whether it's, municipality or education or healthcare, we see a shrinking staff is one of the biggest changes we've seen. People are doing the same amount of work with a lot fewer people on staff, that's part of what has brought us into the mix and allowed us to actually come alongside those companies and help them. But that's probably been the biggest change, is just the size of a staff and frankly the training. Like, you have a lot of staff where they're having to bring younger employees up to speed. So there's a lot of training going on at the same time.
Right. So what were the main expectations from clients and organizations?
I think main expectations, I think now, because we spend so much time replacing staff that isn't there anymore, it is, can we get in, can we diagnose something accurately and help them get to a solution or a repair as quick as possible. Obviously, time is money, so it's like cost is driving that at some level. But at the same time, can we build a relationship where there's a good bit of trust between us and the customer? And how do we effectively help them avoid future issues?
Gotcha. And it sounds like are companies outsourcing facility management more today than...
all over the place. Yeah. And to be honest with you, even some of them that are outsourcing, they will outsource, and then the company that they're hiring as their outsource will hire us back in. And
Okay.
so we end up being a third tier
Right.
supplier to a customer that we've had. I mean, we have customers who have been with us for 3 or 4 decades. We're 65 years old, so it's like, yeah, we've had customers who have been with us a long time.
And then they've transitioned to outsourcing, and then you come in, like you said, you're coming in through a third party.
Right. Yeah.
Do
And
they
that
not?
happens more than you would realize.
Wow. Is there a reason why they don't want to like outsource to you directly, or is what's the role of that company that sort of became the in between you and your long term client?
In some cases, um, in a bigger organization, like those larger companies are covering a much broader swath of services than what we'll cover.
Gotcha.
Um, in some cases, actually, we have a healthcare customer that they've just outsourced all of their um, boiler and chiller control stuff to another company, and those have motors on them. So, like in that case, they went and outsourced something very narrow,
Right.
but that company still wants to use us because we've got everything else in that healthcare
Right.
facility.
Right.
So it's just continuity of service. It doesn't necessarily mean we always lose that customer as our direct contact, but in some cases it does.
Right. Right. Depending on what the third party's covering, like you said, that's a
Right.
much broader coverage that third party's doing for the company, and then within that, then that's where your specialty would come in because they still need that. So does the company like this particular one you were referring to? Do they tell the new third party to say, hey, I need you to use Rich?
They'll yeah, I think they'll suggest it, and a lot of times those companies, if that facility has a relationship with somebody, there's a level of comfort with them, and so I think it produces less friction in the relationship if they're using some of the same suppliers.
So the industry has changed dramatically, but it hasn't been without challenges. What do you see as the biggest hurdles for facility leaders like yourself right now?
Um, Honestly, the biggest hurdle, which we are facing a aging population. So we have lots of guys who have been in facilities management roles for, their entire career, and in some cases with the same customer of ours. And as they near retirement, honestly, one of the things we're facing right now is we have customers who we'll see them 2 or 3 times a year, and then we'll call them up just to check on them. And the guy we've been talking to for the last 20 or 30 years is gone. He retired,
Right.
and we missed it. And there's somebody new there, and so it's like trying to maintain those relationships.
Yeah.
And we tend to be a pretty relational company. Like
Right.
one of my, like, I would say driving factors is it's like I want to know my customers, not just as a customer. Like we want to
Mm-hmm.
have a relationship with them. We want to be the kind of vendor
Yeah.
that when we pick up the phone and we're talking to them, we can tell by the tone of their voice, oh, hey, you sound like you're not having a good day. Like
Yeah.
we want to be that kind of vendor. Um, but it's hard to do that when you've got people who are retiring and you got new people stepping in and you don't have a relationship. Like you're starting over at ground
Yeah.
zero,
Yeah.
building a relationship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can understand it wholeheartedly. I've been in sales for over 30 years, and you get into a company, you're doing well, and let's say it's the purchaser you're dealing with, like you said. They don't tell you. Next thing they retire, and it's like, oh my goodness, I got to start off the whole sales process and relationship building all over again. So yeah, that can be a problem. But no, that's very good of you because today it is about relationship, and it's about getting in there and getting to know the client, and even to be able to have a chit chat and know that like for instance, if I found out that you were a golfer or something, and say, hey, did you get it out on the weekend? Oh yeah, I got out and I flubbed around and lost 6 balls or or
Right.
whatever, right? But be able to have that non-business conversation throughout the process. Perfect, good. So here's workforce turnover and skill gaps are the hot topic. How are you addressing this?
So in our industry, our shop is one of three in like South Bend, Indiana area, like northern Indiana. And I would, we calculated it up, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and our average age was 56 across the three shops. So like we have a population that's nearing retirement. So like this is a huge issue for us. One of the things we've done is, well, we've attacked it from two different directions because trying to find people who are willing to get in and do the work we do is a little difficult, because sometimes it's dirty, sometimes it's hard, and I don't personally like the whole you pay to get an employee and then you keep them for 2 years, because generally the cost that goes into getting an employee trained is around the $30,000 range.
Wow.
I know in some industries that might even be a low number. So we've partnered up with two different groups. We've partnered up with the VA, and the VA actually has a program for vets who are leaving the military, trying to get education. And so that partnership with the VA has allowed us to start basically an apprenticeship program where we can hire a vet. And when I'm getting a soldier, like soldiers get hard work. Like, and it's part of the reason, like we've hired 2 soldiers in the last 2 years, and I've got a third one who actually just retired from active duty. But that aspect, the beauty of partnering with the VA is the VA actually helps them enter back into the workforce. We provide schooling and training, and we get some of those costs covered. And I get workers who are used to working, and it's like, yeah, we love it. It has been a phenomenal partnership. The other one is we're working with the local high schools, and specifically like career and technical education programs, to find students who are not bound for college, who want to get out and they know, you know what, I'm not going to college, I want to be in the workforce. And a lot of times, you come out of college with a lot of debt. Well, we can actually pay for them to go to college, and we can get that subsidized. And at the same time, partnering with the schools have had these students for 4 years, so they know who the hard workers are. They know who these kids are who have technical background and might have some mechanical aptitude. And so by getting to know the administrators in those programs, we're actually pulling in high school students. So, and that's been, I mean, it's not without, its own struggles, but yeah, I feel like it's a good process. It's a process in work.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, you're dealing with people, and so we know that can, what that can generate, good or bad. But you're certainly right on the military training. Sometimes I wonder if it's good for any country, for countries to, like my father in the UK, he had to do his 2 years in the military. You wonder if that's good for all men, just to help us get more disciplined and develop better work habits, or on that end of it. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So since the pandemic, hybrid workplaces have reshaped space and usage. How has that impacted your leadership?
Honestly, that didn't change things too much for us, because during the pandemic, because we serve so many municipalities and healthcare facilities, our workload went up. Like, because hospitals were being taxed to their max. So, yeah, we spent most of the pandemic and post-pandemic on site and hard at it.
Gotcha. Good. All right. Sorry. All right. Despite those challenges, many leaders are finding ways to succeed. From your perspective, what strategies are really working right now?
Um, hmm. But this year has been challenging. Like to say what's working. What I would say, this has been a growth year for us from the standpoint of kind of honing our internal process, like how we do things inside of our building and how we interact with each other, how we interact with the customer and their equipment. And so if I was to look at 2024, 2025, like we've seen our customer base has gotten smaller, but at the same time, we've probably learned how to care for them better. So I would say internal growth is what's working right now and what we've kind of focused on because, as even with tariffs, like the tariff situation is starting to affect us now. And I think that that's going to play a role because when you've bought so many new products at such a reduced cost, when you start introducing tariffs, it's like that need to repair stuff. Originally, you could buy a motor for about the price you would repair it in a lot of cases. Well,
Right.
that's not the case anymore. And so I think we're going to start to see more repairs
Right.
and more like maintenance being done. And so we're trying to pay attention to that.
Yes, and that's usually what happens when, not to say in a downturn in the economy, but there's a lot of different focus from oh, maybe we just should fix it and use that instead of buying a new one and so forth. But could you go a little more in depth? You mentioned that the challenges that you're facing this year. Could you go a little? Is it okay if you go in a little
Oh,
more
yeah.
depth?
No, so this year, one of the things we've seen, and we've seen this across the board, like there has been, from a revenue standpoint, we've seen a pullback in industry. So, like, we don't see people spending as much money. And I always want to be careful as I'm looking at that because I can attribute that to economic stuff going on and companies trying to hold on to their cash because they're not sure what the future holds.
Right.
But at the same time, there is a certain aspect for us where as we define better and better what we're good at, our circle might have been this big originally, and as we get that better defined, we might get smaller, which means our revenue is going to decrease. But if we're able to care for that group of customers better, eventually we'll be able to find customers that look like them and
Yes.
care for them with the same level.
Yes.
And so,
Yeah, good. You mentioned about like the revenue shrinking in that, but have you been able to go deeper with your current client base to get more business and revenue?
yeah, and that has actually been one of the areas where we're growing. Like we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we help them better? Because as they've got shrinking staffs, it's like their problems are changing as well. Because it's like, if you had 30 or 40 guys to do the work, and you had 30 or 40 guys worth of work, well, then it wasn't a problem. Well, when you've got 20 guys, it's like the things that seemed of lower importance start to get ignored. And honestly, from even an AI standpoint, we're partnered with a company out of San Antonio that does, we can put sensors on motors to check the vibration. And so
Right.
we can tell when something's starting to fail. This company has taken it a step further with AI where these sensors will they produce a pattern of vibration. Well, this AI tool can actually map that vibration and go, "Oh, we're starting to have a failure on this end of the motor." And we might know long before a customer does,
Right.
because they're not able to get around and check all of their motors regularly like they used to be. And so we can call them and say, hey, it looks like motor number one is starting to experience some vibration on the front of it, or the fan that's attached to it. And sometimes it's not, in the case of the hospital, at different times of the year, you open different dampers to bring in more fresh air or cool air or exhaust hot air. And anytime you change the airflow, well, you change the vibration. And so that's where an AI tool is helpful. And we're able to provide value to somebody else that, generally it's significantly less cost than having an employee that did that before.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah, AI is very good for that. It can, if you want, it can enhance a person's responsibilities. Or if you're really tight on budget, maybe you want to have replacement, or like you're saying, the cost for that AI system on the motors compared to somebody doing it, it's like an employee, but it's at a quite a cost reduction,
Right.
and able to have that same service done and done all the time, right? So
Right.
that those sensors are sensoring 24/7, right? So that's always good too. Cool.
Well, and probably even for clarity's sake, like a lot of the time when we're seeing staffs shrinking, it's got less to do with them reducing staff size intentionally. I mean, there is an intentional reduction, but what it is it's people retiring and them not and a customer just not refilling that role.
Right.
Like because they've decided, okay, I think we can fill this gap in a different way. And so we haven't seen like mass reduction in staff size in a lot of the facilities sectors we're in, but what we're seeing is just not refilling positions.
Right. Right. Yeah. So they're just spreading the responsibility
You're
over.
spreading the responsibility.
Thanks, Jim. But here's 10% more work for you, and Sam, here's another 20% for you, and go
Right.
get them, boys.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. How are leaders building stronger teams in such a competitive labor market?
And I don't know if I can speak to everybody else. I can tell you how we're doing it. How about
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
So for us, it was bringing more people into the decision process, and segregating up our workload in a way that people got certain areas that they were responsible for, but then also bringing them into the dreaming process. So, like, as we kind of envision what we're going to look like 10 years down the road, we had a discussion as a leadership team and I would say early on in this process, that vision was mine. And I've got to be the one to champion it now,
Yes.
but it's no longer just my decision. It's not. It's all of us collectively looking at who we are and what we love to do,
Yeah.
and then going, okay, this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what you're passionate about, and where do those cross?
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that provides value to a customer, and how can we use that?
Right. Well, I agree with you. That's a great direction to take. Getting input from the people, because you're all one team, and you're all trying to do in one direction of taking a company and do better and serve the customers, and of course increase profits and stuff. So, yeah, that's very well said. All right, what we got here? What's a leadership mindset or practice that's helping leaders like yourself stay agile in this environment?
Um, that's I g- so the first one that comes to mind, and this may be really counterintuitive. For me, it's retreat. It's making a practice of stepping back and evaluating, A, like where are we at as a company, but B, where am I at as a person,
Right.
and using that then when I get to come back after those times of just stepping away. Like a lot of times I come back with a clear head or a clearer head, and my ability to evaluate the situations that we're walking into, because growth comes with a lot, you know it comes with some stress, and it doesn't come like it comes with a mess sometimes,
Right.
and it's like trying to sort through that is challenging, and trying to lead a team is challenging in the midst of that. And so, honestly, and even encouraging my team to do that, like that's been a little harder, to encourage them, hey, I want you to step away for a day and just spend some time. Yeah, focus on the business a little, but spend some time understanding yourself and caring for yourself and trying to, like, be mentally well,
Right.
because
Yes.
we're going to make a lot better decisions when we're at that point.
Yeah.
The second one for us, we went through an exercise this year where it was an exercise on basically evaluating how much we trusted each other, and I would say, like, as a team, we're pretty tight. I wouldn't have said we had a trust issue. And after going through that exercise, we realized, like, we could trust each other probably in work stuff pretty well. In personal things, we were okay. And so, like, getting the team, and we're not there yet, but getting the team to that point where we actually trust each other across the board, so that,
Right.
because when I trust you, if I have to bring a critique, because we want to be honest with each other, we want
Yes.
to address things with each other. When I have to bring a critique, if you don't feel like you trust me, you're not going to hear my critique well.
Right.
And so that's been the other thing that's kind of kept us a little more agile, because as that trust grows, we can address the elephant in the room really quick,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and then it ceases to be an elephant in the room. Like,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
out there, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
deal with this
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been dealt with, and you start eating it one bite at a time.
one bite at a time. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
and that trust is needed, because without the trust, people are, we're hesitant to share the truth,
Yes.
right? Because we hold it back, and so forth, and that. So that's a great strategy. Well done. All right. Okay, now let's look ahead. Leadership is still evolving. What's on the horizon for facility services over the next 5 to 10 years? And you could just share about your company. You don't have to share about the overall
Yeah.
industry.
No, so, I mean, kind of, we were talking before about AI and our ability to monitor at a distance what's going on with a customer's facility, to help them stay ahead. And I think at some level, it's not new. It's just the way we can do it now is
Yes.
new. It used to be, my dad, when he was doing analysis for customers, like, he would have to go into their facility once a year, and he'd go around and he'd have to physically check every piece of equipment.
Yep.
Well, if I can do that at a distance now, I can keep track of a customer here in South Bend. I can keep track of a customer in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then, like, it creates an opportunity to spread our footprint a little bit.
Right.
So I think that going forward, That's going to be a pretty big deal. But to be honest with you, and maybe this is more of a hope than something I see. Like, the more and more I feel like we get disconnected culturally, the more I feel like the relational aspect of what we're trying to provide to a customer, my hope is that that becomes more valuable because they're not getting it elsewhere, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it almost seems that technology can really help us in advance, but it certainly can distance us from our
oh yeah,
clients when we really don't want that. I'm old school sales. I'd rather have a face to face talk. This is face to face, but even in person, I've always been in person. I'd like to do that. That's my style. I want to get to know you. You can know me, and then we
right.
can take it from there. And perfect. Good. All right. Yeah, how do you see AI and automation changing leadership responsibilities and how it may affect your company?
Um, I I think that as AI and automation kind of step into this realm, obviously it allows us to reduce the size of our team, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing because it's like, okay, I would rather have 4 or 5 guys that I know really well and they know
Hmm.
me really well,
Yeah.
and they know that I've got their back and I know
Yeah.
that they've got mine.
Yeah.
Um, and even from a customer standpoint, it's like I want my customers to know that. Um, and so I see that aspect of it helping because it does reduce the size of a team. Um, at the same time, from a leadership standpoint, I think the thing that we'll have to fight against is there's a tendency to feel like, oh, the AI and the automation's taking care of it until we realize, oh, it's not, or something. Like
Yeah.
we had a situation a couple weeks ago where we have an AI tool that we use, and we didn't realize the AI tool got disconnected from our account, like digitally,
Wow.
and all of a sudden we didn't have communication with our AI tool. And when we realized it, it was like, then we go back in and you connect it back up and everything starts working again. But there's going to be more of that kind of management of things.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think it's very marginal. Like that's not a huge issue. It's just something that you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because you know how it is. AI is here to stay. You're going to have, and companies are going to try to find how they can use it to take their company to the next level to be better than the competition. Because, you know, if a company's not doing it, more than likely their competitors probably doing it,
Right.
right? So and using it, trying to get ahead of the game. All right. Do you think soft skills like empathy and communication will outweigh technical skills in future leaders?
I hope so. I um yeah, I so that's kind of that's a loaded question for me because like I have a group of CEOs that I meet with once a month, and we were having that discussion because I was questioning my own set of skills, and I'm like,
Right?
I'm not sure I'm qualified for this. Like there are days where I feel like that,
Yeah.
and they looked at me, and one of them was like, listen, you don't have to be an expert at all of that.
Yeah.
Like your job's to lead,
Yeah.
and it's like, and you can lead, and they have to remind me of that, and so yeah, from a technical skill side, I I think there are technical skills you have to carry, but Um, I think the empathy and the soft skills
Yes.
are the ones that are going to be more important because the more disconnected we feel, the
Yeah.
more those skills are going to stand out.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And the word that you used was disconnected. Technology is so easily disconnecting us. So, like you said, those soft skills are going to be even more required from now and into the future to make sure that those soft touches are done with customers because we all want to feel important and different things like that, and that's where we can come in and make our clients feel important by taking the time and with them and that.
actually,
Great.
you said taking the time. That would be one of the other things that I feel like as these tools help us move faster, like we end up doing just that. We end up moving faster to the point where we don't end up having time for each other. And
Right.
it's like learning to create that kind of space in our e- even in our work relationships is I was listening to a book and they were talking about how you remember Fred Rogers Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood
Yeah.
always had a stoplight hanging or standing in the room where he would always
Right.
start his day, and it
Yeah.
was always flashing yellow light. And it was like they were talking about how that's a reminder to slow down.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like eh, that's one of those I think is could get lost if we're not careful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just don't want to motor through your customer like, yeah, 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 you're a number, blah, 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 and then you're on to the next one when, they can get lost and stuff through the
Yeah.
process. Yeah. All right. Um, Almost done. Uh, will facility leaders finally have a permanent seat, at the strategy table in organizations?
Yes, I think that that is starting to happen because I think for so long industrialism pushed us to the point where it was like produce, produce, produce.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're starting to watch a pullback from that and realizing that um, we have some things to learn maybe from our Japanese neighbors there that there's benefit in being able to stop production periodically and take care of things.
Right.
Equipment being obviously the one that when you're talking facilities you're thinking equipment,
Yes.
but yeah, I think that that ability to build in that margin to stop,
Yeah.
I I think is becoming more a part of the strategy. I don't see it everywhere, but I do see it happening more. And but I think we're going through a season where we're realizing, okay, our staff's shrinking again and we don't have the time to do maintenance, but now we're experiencing a whole lot of downtime and failure,
Right.
and it's costing us money. And so then the strategy starts coming in, and you see it in the software. Like we see a lot of software maintenance packages that it's like they're trying to track uptime and downtime on equipment, and when you see a piece of equipment that's been down a ton over a 3 month period, you're like, man, this has been down as much as it's been up, and here's what it's cost us. Like you've got a
Right.
cost associated with it all
Yeah.
of a sudden that it's like it's costing us more money because we're not maintaining it or we're running it too hard or it's old and it needs to be replaced.
Right, right. I think also when you say slow down, I think that also coincides with slowing down and going deeper with your customers. I've always my model is go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And so if you have a customer already, like let's say the hospital you've been dealing with, they're happy with your service. So I've always tried to go, let's go deeper. And I think that's part of the slowing down is not just getting another customer, and another customer, because a lot of times these customers that we deal with, they're happy with us, so they're very much open to hear other solutions and other things that you can do for them,
Right.
and and get more business that way. Well, my last question is is there any bottlenecks that in any aspect of your business, I'll say administration, sales, anything like that, where you feel that you got a bottleneck where it slows down the whole process?
Um, Honestly, I think from a bottleneck standpoint, our main bottleneck has been just our internal communication. We bring a job in, we break it down and evaluate it. We might quote it to a customer, and then once they get back to us, it might go to a different technician. And so one of our bottlenecks is that handoff from technician to technician, or
Right.
from the original technician to the guy quoting it and back to the new technician once it gets approved. Like trying to sort through that.
Right.
And some of that we're seeking to address. Like it's been a problem. Like we're an EOS company, so like we're paying attention to, how how the business flows, and that's been one of the main ones that we've got a handful of irons in the fire right now trying to correct that one. But yeah, that's probably our main bottleneck that we're focusing on.
Gotcha. Good. All right. Here we go. I'll go in closing now. So, Rich, I'd like to thank you for your insights. It's clear that leadership in facility service has come a long way, and the leaders who will thrive are those who balance people, technology, and strategy. And would you like to share any parting words?
No, I'm grateful to be here. It's a good conversation.
Yeah, it was. Thank you for sharing. Well, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.